Hi. So this video is going to be about thinking problems or brain fog, which is one of the most common symptoms that I see for people living with persistent fatigue. Sometimes people say things to me like, I walk into a room and I can't remember why I came in, or I used to be able to do 5 things at once and I can't anymore. Or I'm feeling really insecure that I won't be able to keep up with the pace of the conversation in a work meeting. So I'm really hoping that this video will give you some more information about thinking and to help you to be able to figure out some strategies to manage the problems. So the way I'm going to organize this video is I'm going to go through the main categories of our thinking. And it may be helpful to brainstorm all of the cognitive problems that you're having and slot them into these different categories, as this may help you to figure out some approaches that may help you to manage these different problems. So at our most basic level, we have our attention, and that's our ability to focus on the task. So that may be something like if you're listening to a friend talking in a restaurant, you need to be able to ignore all the background noise and even ignore the thoughts that you have in your mind to be able to focus on what your friend is saying. It may be about switching your attention between different components of a task. So if you're making a meal, you need to be able to switch your attention from what's happening on the hob to what's happening maybe in the microwave. And then a bit more complex than that is our information processing. And that's the ability to process different forms of information at the speed in which it's coming at us. So the information may be written, it may be something that you're listening to, something you're watching, and you may find that there's different kinds of information that's easier for your brain to process. Now, more complex than that is what we call our working memory. And that's a bit like our post-it note. So as information is coming at us, certain bits of it we need to be able to hold on to long enough to decide what we need to do with it. So as an example, if you called your doctor's office and they offered you an appointment, you would need to be able to hold on to that appointment time long enough to figure out how much that's going to impact the rest of your routine, the rest of your day. And then we have our memory, and our memory is our storage bank. It's where we take new bits of information and connect it to older bits of information. And what we really hope is that it's being stored in a really organized way by, say, categories. So if you have your doctor's appointment, it's being stored in the same category as the address of your doctor, what your doctor looks like, why you're going to your doctor, so that later when you need to recall, say, the doctor's appointment, it's been stored in a really organized way. And then the most complex form of our thinking is our executive function. And that's all about being able to oversee how a task is doing, noticing errors, making adjustments, organizing information, problem solving and reasoning. And what I find most often for people living with persistent fatigue is that they're having difficulty with information processing, so the ability to process information at the speed in which it's coming, our working memory, the ability to hold on to new bits of information long enough to decide how to act, and then at the executive function level, particularly challenged with organizing lots of information to then be able to problem solve what to do next. Your brain is a really massively energy-using part of your body. And when living with fatigue, energy is such a valuable resource. So any strategies that you can put into place to help decrease the cognitive demands will really help your overall well-being. So just a couple of examples to give you an idea of what I mean. From an attention point of view, are there ways to decrease the amount of distraction so that your brain isn't having to work so hard to filter out the less important stimulation? Is there certain types of information, whether it's written or auditory, that your brain finds easier to process? Can you decrease the speed in which the information's coming? Can you review that information again just to decrease some of that time pressure? I'm a really big advocate for writing things down and trying to categorize it and group it, because this really helps your brain to be able to categorize and organize information so that it goes into your memory in the most organized way possible. Is there ways to take breaks before you're feeling really depleted so that your brain isn't having to work extra hard in order to pay attention in that meeting, prep for that appointment that you'll have later in the day? Those are just some examples of ways to decrease the cognitive demands to help support your overall cognition.